The HiT era. As all Thomas fans know, this was the first rebrand of the show since its start in 1984. This nomenclature stems from HiT's acquisition of the franchise and many of the big names stepping down this year, like David Mitton as director, and the original composers Mike and Jr. HiT had a very different vision for the show, one major and the most apparent difference being that it was geared towards a younger audience exclusively, without the wide appeal of the original series. This, according to fans, myself included, see this as a definite decrease in quality. I mean, even in recent years, after the show's run has ended, and the fans have no choice but to look back at this show. Well, unless you want to look forward to that. One of the things you'd recognize is that the fandom has been warming up to the HiT era. And I reckon this is because of a combination of the major downgrades in recent years, and the Gen Z fans who had mostly grown up with these episodes, growing older and being able to voice their thoughts in the fandom's discourse. The episode I'd like to spotlight is one episode I've noticed hasn't really gotten as much attention as being one of this era's good episodes. Sure, it's no Edward the Great, Respect for Gordon, not even a Hector the Horde or Squeak, Rattle, and Roll, but it's still one I think deserves recognition, so here I am to talk about Percy and the Magic Carpet. Percy and the Magic Carpet is the 26th and final episode of the 8th series, the first of this era, and I personally reckon it's a pretty damn good one to go out on. The premise of this story is rather obvious given the title, but that's to be expected with a run from this era. Alicia bodies come into Sodor, and the Fat Controller needs an engine to pick up the carpet from the docks. Sure, it's silly they need an entire locomotive for a single carpet that could have been brought by someone, but I think it's excusable given the fact that this is now under HiT's management, first and foremost a toddler show. And to be fair towards this episode, it's far from the most offensive thing to be done towards the realism, especially from this era. James and most importantly Gordon scoff at Percy's job, brushing it off as unimportant. Percy collects the carpet and is disappointed before being told of magic carpets and so-called magic words by Salty, to which Percy, in his naivete, get quite confused on that.
Do you know any magic words? You mean like please? No, Percy. Other magic words like ay, presto, hocus pocus, and abracadabra.
This ties in with the moral lesson at the end and contextualizes the type of magic words for the young audience. With a new outlook on his job, Percy sets off and confronts Gordon, to which he immediately shuts it down as being the blustery weather.
That's not magic, snorted Gordon. That's just the wind.
Percy goes on a silly but admittedly fun goose chase as the carpet flies off from place to place. We even get a cameo from Murdoch, which is nice to see.
Hello, everybody.
Percy is about to catch the carpet when it flies onto Thomas's line, who's oblivious to that. Percy, Toby, and Gordon begin panicking as Percy remembers the magic word Salty mentioned earlier, to which Percy attempts to use to get the carpet to go away.
Hey, presto! Hocus pocus! Abracadabra! But the carpet didn't move.
Which leads to an embarrassing failure. In a last-ditch attempt, Percy asks the carpet please, and the carpet flies off the track and onto Percy's truck in time to prevent a crash. Percy makes the delivery just in time to be congratulated by the Fat Controller. And what makes this episode so special? The plot is pretty silly and childish, and wouldn't be something you'd see out of a classic series episode.
Naughty gnomes!
Well, maybe it's not that far off. To which I say, like most other HiT era standouts, the praise mostly goes towards the characterization more so than the plot themselves. For instance, Percy is much similar to how he was portrayed in Season 6, being naive but not quite the idiot he was going to become later on. This is most likely due to the writer Abby Grant, who's went on record to say that Percy is her favorite character, and this episode was one of her favorites to write. James and Gordon are pretty in line with their personas during the Big Engines era. Gordon in particular is totally in line with how he instantly shuts down the idea of magic, only to be unsure by the end, possibly even believing in magic, as indicated by this line.
It is magic, gasped Gordon.
Feels quite similar to how his shit-talking ended up backfiring in cows, if you ask me. Besides the good characterization, I also appreciate the way the morals handled. While most HiT-era morals are apparent and down your throat, this one is quite subtle and not in your face. The episode I'd like to compare this one to is also from this same season, Emily's Adventure. Both episodes are basic lessons in manners, but this episode handles it infinitely better than the former. While that episode is preachy and apparent, not to mention the fact that you have to deal with a main character who's admittedly kind of being an asshole. This one's much more in line with the classic series, in that it's subtly laid down throughout the runtime of the episode. Speaking of, this episode also does something that I'd like to appreciate, and that's the fact that it leaves the magic element up to viewer interpretation. It reminds me of a lot of Duncan Gets Spooked in that aspect. But unlike that episode, this one doesn't seem to get as much praise by the fans, which is ironic in my opinion, considering something like this would be much more daring for the HiT era, as opposed to the classic series. This episode also takes a note out of Season 5 with the way it incorporates its humor. Similarly to Lady Hat's birthday party, this episode doesn't take itself too serious, being an episode about Percy and a flying carpet. Here, it helps suspend the audience's disbelief by playing into the humorous aspect, to a pretty good effect.
Gordon was even less impressed than before. It is magic, and I'm going to be late.
My final conclusion is this: while the episode has all the typical HiT era characteristics, they're done tastefully and well written too. So I hope that you leave this video with a newfound outlook on this episode, which I personally find to be quite an underrated gem of this era. I hope you all like this, as it's my first structured and scripted video, so hopefully it comes out good. I also just want to say that this isn't a new direction for my channel. I'm not going to be making exclusively, I'm not going to become a Thomas channel. Still doing the gaming videos. I just wanted to shed some light in an episode that I thought should get more recognition. Happy New Year or whatever. I don't really know when this video is going to come out, so whenever it does, yeah, that's cool. See you next time.
Fruit with the most vitamin A is mango. The fruit is mango.